because Pacheco and Kareem Hunt weren't giving you much. So what has Patrick Mahomes done? He's led the team in rushing and rushing touchdowns. Okay, that's what he has done. They got a top 10 offense, 8th in yards, 9th in scoring. We go a bit further over the last 3 weeks. The first 3 weeks of the season, or rather just 3 weeks ago, the man had a passer rating in the low 80s with only 3 touchdown passes. And since then, he's posted 10 total touchdowns and just 1 turnover over the last 3 games. He's now got 15 touchdowns on the season, 11 touchdown passes, 4 touchdown runs, 1,736 total yards on the season. Once again, leads the league in both TD passes and TD runs from the quarterback position, or total touchdowns, actually. And again, I remind you, reiterating, leading the team in both rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. That is a quarterback that is saying, no matter what the conditions are, no matter what what obstacles lie in my wait, I will find a way to keep us afloat as long as I'm breathing. That is what he has done. And so now.
All right, Chiefs Kingdom. This is one of those stories that hits you right in the middle of the season. The kind that makes every fan pause and think, what if? What if a player like David Njoku, a former Pro Bowler, an athletic freak with size, speed, and fire, were to land in Kansas City? What if Patrick Mahomes, the most dynamic quarterback in football, suddenly had another weapon? One that could stretch the field, dominate matchups, and bring back the double tight end thunder that once made this offense unstoppable. Let's talk about it, because this rumor, originally tied to the New England Patriots, might make even more sense in red and gold. Trade season is in full swing. Teams are testing the waters, calling around, seeing who's buying, who's selling. The Browns, sitting at a crossroads after shipping out veteran quarterback Joe Flacco and leaning on their young core, are clearly open for business. Analysts have pointed to them as one of the potential sellers before the November 4th deadline. And in that atmosphere, the name David Njoku has resurfaced again. He's just 29 years old, still in his prime, and on a very team-friendly contract. That's the kind of player championship teams circle with a red marker. Now, the article that broke this latest discussion mentioned the Patriots as one of the suitors. That makes sense. Tight end is a core feature in Josh McDaniels' offense, and New England's depth there is thin. But when you take a step back and look across the league at teams with real playoff aspirations, you can't help but notice how much better Njoku's skill set fits into what Kansas City does, especially right now. Because if you've watched the Chiefs through the first 6 weeks, you know that the offense has rediscovered its rhythm, but it still lacks that second tight end dimension that used to give defenses nightmares. Let's be honest, Travis Kelce is still elite, still breaking coverages at 36 years old, but there's only so much you can ask from one man. Defenses have begun to double him in creative ways, bracketing him inside out, shading safeties toward his routes. That's where Njoku's presence could change everything. Imagine a 6'4", 245-pound tight end with 4.6 speed lining up opposite Kelce, forcing defenses to pick their poison. You can't double both. You can't disguise zone coverages the same way. You can't put a linebacker on one and a safety on the other without leaving Mahomes an easy read downfield. Think about what Andy Reid could do with that chess piece. The Chiefs have always been at their deadliest when they're unpredictable, when you don't know if it's 11 personnel or 12, when motion confuses the linebackers, and when mismatches appear faster than defenses can adjust. Njoku would give Reid that flexibility again. He's not just a red zone target, he's a seam splitter, a guy who can pull coverage away from deep shots or open screens underneath for receivers like Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. Add Rashee Rice, who's coming back from suspension and ready to rejoin the rotation, and suddenly you've got the kind of multiplicity that defines championship football. But it's not just about what Njoku could do, it's about how he fits. The Chiefs' locker room is a culture of accountability and quiet confidence. Njoku, by all accounts, has matured into a reliable, focused veteran. After some early career inconsistencies, he's built a reputation in Cleveland as a tone setter. He blocks with intensity, he practices hard, and he's respected by teammates. That's the kind of energy you want in a contender. If there's one thing Brett Veach has proven, it's that he loves versatile players who fit the team ethos, talented, driven, and willing to buy into the system. Now let's look at the numbers. So far this season, Njoku has 23 receptions for 223 yards and a touchdown through 6 games. Not eye-popping, but that's within a Browns offense that's been stuck between quarterbacks and inconsistent game scripts. Put that same production in Mahomes' system with his improvisational genius and his ability to extend plays, and you're looking at exponential growth. Njoku thrives on broken plays, where his athleticism lets him break free late. Mahomes thrives in those exact situations. That's chemistry waiting to happen. Let's dig deeper into what this move would mean strategically. The Chiefs have gradually shifted their offensive identity. They've gone from a deep ball, Tyreek Hill-powered attack to a more methodical, intermediate one that relies on spacing, timing, and yards after catch. A player like Njoku would reintroduce that explosive middle-of-the-field presence, something they haven't fully had since prime Kelce was drawing single coverage every snap. With Njoku in the lineup, you can run layered concepts. Kelce underneath, Njoku on the seam, Hollywood streaking outside, and Rice breaking late across the middle. Defenses would be stretched horizontally and vertically, and Mahomes would have pre-snap options that keep defensive coordinators guessing all game. Let's not overlook the emotional impact either. Bringing in a player of Njoku's caliber would send a clear message across the AFC. The Chiefs are not resting on their laurels. They're retooling in real time. The Ravens, Bills, and Bengals might be building, but Kansas City is evolving. You can see how that mindset keeps the locker room sharp. For a team that's won, rebuilt, and won again, that hunger for improvement is what keeps them dangerous. And that's why a move like this, adding Njoku, feels less like desperation and more like strategy. Financially, the deal is plausible. Njoku's restructured contract makes him affordable for a team like Kansas City. The Browns might be open to a mid-round pick in exchange if they're leaning fully into youth and development. The Chiefs, with their knack for maximizing veteran talent, could pull that trigger without jeopardizing their future. They've done it before. Think about the late-season pickups. Terrell Suggers, Josh Gordon, Kadarius Toney, all different levels of impact, but all aimed at bolstering depth for a deep playoff push. Njoku could be that 2025 version, the difference between a top 10 offense and an unstoppable one. And the timing couldn't be better either. The Chiefs have just regained momentum after that dominant win over Detroit. Mahomes is in mid-season form, and Brian Schottenheimer has found the right rhythm with the offense's tempo and play calling. Adding a tight end like Njoku now gives them 4 or 5 weeks to integrate him before the Rio Gauntlet begins. November divisional matchups, December seeding games, and the stretch run toward the playoffs. By January, he'd be fully integrated and another weapon for the postseason arsenal. You know what makes this story even more fascinating? Njoku's skill set mirrors what the Chiefs love to develop, positionless offense. He's a tight end who can play slot, boundary, or even as an H-back. He blocks like a tackle, moves like a receiver, and creates mismatches every time he lines up. Kansas City could line him up next to Kelce in heavy sets or flex and wide in motion, disguising intentions on every down. Defenses would have to stay in nickel or dime, which opens running lanes for Isaiah Pacheco, another crucial benefit. Njoku doesn't just help the passing game, he helps the run game by forcing lighter boxes. And speaking of Pacheco, imagine the play action possibilities. You fake the handoff, linebackers bite, Kelce drags across, Njoku splits the middle, Worthy goes deep, that's 6 points waiting to happen. That's the nightmare scenario for defensive coordinators. That's Kansas City football. Let's also touch on chemistry, because that's where great offenses thrive. Mahomes builds trust through reps, but also through shared mentality. Players who keep moving, stay aware, and anticipate the quarterback's scramble patterns. Njoku's experience with improvisational quarterbacks in Cleveland has conditioned him perfectly for that. He's used to plays breaking down and extending routes mid-flight. That makes the adjustment period easier and the connection with Mahomes almost inevitable. Now, some might say the Chiefs already have depth at tight end. Why add another? Because championship teams don't think in terms of enough. They think in terms of advantage. Noah Gray and Blake Bell have filled their roles well, but Njoku brings a ceiling neither of them can reach. He's a legitimate vertical threat, a second Pro Bowl level talent who can command attention and change coverages. That's the difference between surviving a tough playoff game and finishing one with confetti falling from the rafters. Defensively, adding a player like Njoku also helps the Chiefs' defense indirectly. How? Time of possession. Sustaining longer drives, especially in December cold, keeps Spagnuolo's defense fresher, sharper, and more aggressive. That's how you close games. It's complementary football, something Andy Reid values deeply. And let's be real, Patrick Mahomes deserves this. The man's been carrying the offense with rotating pieces, developing chemistry with young receivers on the fly, and still producing at an MVP level. Giving him another dynamic weapon isn't luxury, it's investment. The league's most dangerous quarterback with another Pro Bowl caliber tight end, that's a blueprint for another Super Bowl run. Now picture Arrowhead on a cold January night. The defense is stacked, the offense lines up in heavy 12 personnel. Kelce motions left, Njoku shifts inside, Mahomes reads the safety, snaps the ball, fakes the handoff, and hits Njoku up the seam for a 25-yard strike. The crowd erupts, the sideline explodes, and somewhere up in the booth, Andy Reid smiles behind that laminated play sheet. That's the vision. That's what this move could bring to life. So let me ask you, Chiefs Kingdom, what do you think? Should Kansas City make a move for David Njoku before the trade deadline? Would you like to see Mahomes throwing to a double tight end formation again, this time with Njoku and Kelce leading the charge? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk football, strategy, and the future of this team. If you believe this move could make Kansas City unstoppable again, hit that like button. If you believe in Mahomes, in Andy Reid, and in the power of this kingdom, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single update, rumor, or reaction as we march toward another playoff run. This is Kansas City Kingdom Report, where passion meets purpose, where hope turns into